15, 16, 39.
I can count that high. Oh, no, you just lost me. All right, we were there for a minute, fam. We were there for a minute. All right, hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans, it's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just three nerdy veterans geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. So without further ado, we're gonna talk to our guest. But before then, we have heard there's a rumor going around the podcast that if we see Nick Garber, we might like get extra winter or something. Isn't that how the groundhog thing works? I don't know. But we'll figure it out. We haven't seen him in ages. So.
If we don't see him, do we get an extra comic book?
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was extra comic books. I don't know. But anyway, we're here to talk to our special guest, author Amy, A.K. DuBoff. So please tell me you use A.K. because you like to fire the gun.
It's actually just my initials, but it works out that it's a super cool initials to have for that other reason.
Well, we're going to go with it, listeners. You heard it here first. She is a fan of the 47. All right. So
this is how rumors start.
Yep.
Yeah,
okay. Well, that just went downhill fast, but that's okay.
But so, Amy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a sci-fi author, so this is a perfect podcast for me to be on. I write primarily space opera and space fantasy stuff. I am probably most known for my Cataclysm universe, and I have recently ventured into the screenwriting realm and have a new techno thriller movie that will be coming out hopefully sometime this year.
Awesome.
Outstanding. So this is the part of the introduction, dear listener, where we get to tell you how we met them. And normally it would be Doc telling us what a lush she is as she drinks her wine and what bar
I'm
she
not a lush. I don't have a problem. I don't go to meetings.
Okay. But actually, this is the time where I actually met Amy at a bar in Vegas in 2018.
It's the best spot to hang out.
Yeah, that hotel was somewhere but the epicenter of like hopelessness and despair. Like you just felt a little dirtier for having been there. I think they've moved the 20 Books Con. But
yes, it's now at Bally's, which is sort of not the glamorous place to be on the strip, but it is affordable, and I appreciate that they select a venue that lets more. And it
isn't Samstown, or can we say the name without getting sued? I don't know. It's not that hotel. You know who you are. It was so smoky and disgusting. It was, yeah.
Are you sure it was your grandmother's like backyard, JR?
Also possible. My grandma wasn't a smoker.
Oh, see, mine was.
You never know. But the decor could have been my grandmother. So, I mean, it had that like 1950s chic going on. So there's that. And
I don't think you understand the meaning of that word.
We're going with it, all right? Just smile and nod, Doc. Smile and nod. All right. So did you... No. Put the drink down. How did you meet Amy?
I actually met Amy back when we were doing sci-fi shenanigans. You said, here is this really cool person. And honestly, I'm surprised we hadn't met because I've been to Jordan Con where you attend regularly. Mm-hmm. And so I think we may just have been ships passing in the con that year. Yep. That I went, but we've made a great friendship since, and I love the Cataclysm universe. It's a lot of fun. I've also discovered I'm a sucker for telepaths, so that's
because they're awesome.
They are awesome.
So, speaking of Robert Jordan and Jordan Con, what did you think of the Amazon made-for-television Wheel of Time series?
I was not a super fan of it. I feel like adaptations, I prefer when they follow to a certain amount of the core of the world building, and there were just a few too many departures for me. It got a little distracting.
Having never read
the production design to me didn't look lived in the way that Game of Thrones or The Witcher do. Like they would be walking around for a month and sleeping on the ground and still have pristine white fur on their jackets. And
yeah, there's a certain level of natural grunge that occurs just through daily living.
Right. So it just didn't quite hit it for me, unfortunately. I mean, I'll probably still watch season 2 when it eventually comes out, but it's more of a watching out of morbid curiosity rather than being like super into it in the way that I am into some other shows.
So I watched it to find out what all the hype was about and to see if it was something to do a review of. Although generally, as a rule, if we don't have nice things to say, we tend not to. There's enough negativity in the world.
Yeah.
But I remember watching the first 2 episodes, and I had to reach out to a friend of mine, Sanokin, who has read all the books, and he's like an uber fan. And I'm like, did Robert Jordan just hate women or hate men? Because this sounds like so anti-man when I'm reading it. And I've met him in person, and he didn't strike me. He goes, no, they're messing up the canon, and he explained all of it to me. I'm like, oh, okay, that actually isn't so bad.
Mhm.
So it's one of those ones that it wasn't horrible, but it definitely in the modern age felt like it had a message rather than a plot to tell.
Yeah.
But I'll still probably keep watching. Just morbid curiosity.
My brother was a very big fan, and he goes, let me tell. He goes, well, and he goes, if you're watching it as a fantasy show, it's pretty good. If you're watching it thinking it's Wheel of Time, well, I don't have enough tequila right now for that. And he'd just come back from a tequila run at Costco.
So I haven't read Wheel of Time or any of Robert Jordan's stuff. I know Josh Hayes, a mutual friend of the show, had tried to do a podcast on it as they, review it as they read it, and they couldn't finish the first book. So I don't know if the prose don't hold up or they just, there were other reasons, but it's one of those things that's been on my list to give a shot forever. But, when the audiobook is like 2 weeks long, I mean, how much time do you have to show
I will admit that I have not read the whole series. I read up through like midway through book 5, I think. And that part of it was just like a life thing that happened. I was also getting more into sci-fi at the time that I was into it. And it just, I kind of build out. But
it is a very...
It started getting a lot of point of view characters and was kind of diverging from that original core set that I had become attached to. So I think that was part of what kicked me out a little bit. And I know that I've heard what the full kind of arc is at this point, because I've been to Jordan Con enough times that I've been spoiled on what happens. And my husband has read the entire series twice, so I'm familiar with it. But yeah, it's it has a lot of cool stuff in it. If it was being published now, would have been edited down a bit to a bit more of a core thing.
I have heard,
audience, but I don't know.
Or maybe it would have gone into splits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I have heard Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson both described as Charles Dickens-esque in their writing style, almost like they're getting paid by the word.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we know they weren't, but that's the style they sort of.
But their editors were.
And this is probably why many of them didn't get cut.
And his wife was his editor, so
yes,
I don't
financial incentive there.
And I don't know if TradPub editors get paid by the word or if they're on salary. So that's outside of my wheelhouse.
It varies by what's going on with them, but
yeah.
So,
I do think one of the neat things is with storytelling. I've seen some indie authors where they'll do almost branching series to focus and drill down on those individual point of view characters.
Yeah, I think this would have benefited from that. Have like a core series with some spinoff stuff, just for those readers that aren't looking for the 1,000-word tome.
Well, I've seen them. I was a bookseller. They are intimidating in size. Not that that is a negative to me, because I read a lot of David Weber, but
but I'm happy that it finally did make it to screen to expand the audience of it. It's a journey that they've been trying to go on for a very long time now, so it's cool to see it. Right.
I will say, before you ask the religion questions, Zach, which are very important, for all there are bad movie adaptations out there that Uber fans always complain about, they always forget how many new people are brought to a series by that. For instance, everybody hates the Starship Trooper movie. If you take it for what it is, a campy sci-fi movie, it wasn't bad.
See, I actually like it. So
I did too. I loved the movies, but it's not the same as the book. No, but I found Robert Heinlein because I watched the movie, and people discount the role that plays in reading. How many times you see a movie and people say, "Oh, the book was better." Oh, let me read it. And so
I think one of the best things in the world is if you can separate, like my brother said, if you're going to watch the new Wheel of Time show, and you are watching a fantasy show, you are engaging in a fantasy show, not thinking of it specifically as Wheel of Time, then he enjoyed it so much more.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So if you are willing to let it be its own thing a lot of times, then it really can be much more enjoyable. So
yeah, I agree completely. I do try to mentally separate. My issues still remain of they were super clean after traveling on the road for a month. So and there are still some
that's
issues with
not
wear
that's
and
not
all
it.
that.
I just finished reading the book series. Although I did have one friend who decided she would table and put on the shelf any new book that once its media rights got bought, because she found she enjoyed it a lot better if she had it wasn't fresh in her mind.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that the military stuff will get me too. If like you see them doing things that are just unpractical, but having lived in the field, I'm like, nope, I'm out. If
like
you don't, or you don't retrieve gear from your dead friends, they weren't going to need it anymore. I mean, every time you see a sci-fi, right? You see them running by. I'm like, no, Bob's got all that bullets. They're still work. Take them. So that's one of the reasons that, unlike most fans of Stargate, I love Stargate Universe, because they actually covered the grittiness. Like, no, grab off those dead bodies. We might not get another resupply.
Yep.
So the religion.
Get us back on track, Doc.
Oh boy.
Yes. Dune, The Last Starfighter, or War Games?
Easily Dune.
Now, which Dune? The new one or the old one?
Oh, see, I love the visuals and the world design of the new one, but I love the heart of the 84 version. If I'm being honest, I get more feels from that one.
Good, because all of them were themed from the 80s. So if you'd pick the new one, it wouldn't be a fair comparison to the other two.
She could have gone with the miniseries.
Wait, there was a miniseries?
Yes, there was a sci-fi. You are such a baby.
Yeah, I do like the sci-fi miniseries in the sense that they somehow did manage to more or less keep with the plot of it and cover it. I don't think that the casting and the design was there. It's also so low budget compared to everything else. But I feel like in terms of getting the story done, they did a pretty decent job.
Well, one of the things I liked about the miniseries is it's one of the few that actually go past just the first book.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that they did a decent treatment of some challenging material to get through in the later books.
Yeah, the entire story arc with his sisters. Mm-hmm. Like looking back on it, I'm like, that was hard.
Yeah.
And so now obviously we've talked about fantasy some. So these are our fantasy religion questions. Legend, Never-Ending Story, or Lady Hawk?
Never-Ending Story is probably the most formative one, so I'm gonna have to go with that.
It is an amazing one.
It really is.
JR really was in an 80s mood with this episode. I try to theme them so at least people have a fair comparison. Like, if you're taking a 1980s sci-fi movie, most of them don't hold up compared to modern special effects. It's not always fair to put them in the same category. So I try to keep them themed that way.
Yep. Well, it's also nice to keep them themed because there's apples and oranges, and while they are great, amazing fruits, comparing an apple to an orange, there's a reason there's sentence. So, but which was your first love, sci-fi or fantasy?
I think it really started with fantasy. I'm guessing Narnia was probably the first thing that was read to me that was in kind of the genre realm. And I read a bunch of just random other fantasy books as a kid. And then the Wrinkle in Time books were probably the ones that got me into it even more. And I found sci-fi in probably around 4th grade and got pretty hardcore into it by that point.
All right. So what was your first memory of engaging in fantasy then? Was it Narnia with your family, or was there something before that you remember in any other venue?
Probably Narnia from a literary perspective is really the first one that comes to mind. I think my mom and dad read it to me when I was pretty young. But then, I mean, Disney movies to an extent are in the fantasy realm in a lot of ways. There's magic and stuff. So that would be probably the other early exposure.
I don't know, because you don't ask a lady her age. So I don't know if gaming content was as much of a 21. Thing. Absolutely. She doesn't look a day over.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Thanks for the discount.
So did you engage in any of games of any kind that were in the speculative fiction wheelhouse at all?
Well, if we want to count Candyland, which I mean, I think does qualify technically.
Sure. It's fantasy. Done deal.
Yeah. I mean, so in that case, I've probably been playing fantasy games since I was what, 3 maybe? I don't know.
Done. You're an expert, a child prodigy, as they say. Doc's making faces at me. All right. So, what is it about speculative fiction as a genre that you love?
I think just that ability to go into a whole other world and explore whatever you want to. You can put characters in situations that are just completely outside of what you could in the real world setting. And just the technology or magic system or whatever else in there is just super cool to imagine that and immerse yourself in. I so wish that we had those kind of advanced abilities that we could use in our everyday life.
It would be so
Come on.
cool.
It would. Although we would also use and abuse them, which is why we asked that question at the end.
Yeah.
And find ways that we would abuse that tech, because they would. I mean, how many people are cutting off their toes with that lightsaber, right?
Yeah,
I'm not cutting off my toe with a lightsaber. I know what I'm doing.
Sure you do.
I do. Putting up with you.
Fair. You'd probably cut off my toes. But at least it cauterizes the wound, so I don't bleed to death. Maybe. Theoretically.
Hey, as long as you're not bleeding on the Persian rugs, you're good.
Ooh.
You
might do it on the Persian rugs,
depending on how close you're getting. But
I did not bleed on the Persian rugs. I survived to adulthood.
The fact that she would even think about stabbing me on the Persian rug, she must really love me.
No, I didn't say that. I just said you can't bleed on them.
That was a joke, Doc. Just go with it. All right. So how did your love of speculative fiction as a genre transition into you writing content for it?
Well, I started writing in probably around 4th grade as well. I got a writing prompt from my teacher. It was like, a dark and stormy night, go with it. And I had this really bad portal fantasy thing that I started working on and got a few chapters in and abandoned the project. And then started doing Sliders fan fiction, sort of. Let's be honest. It was my first fandom obsession, and I recently just rewatched the entire series, and it is so campy. It's amazing.
I rewatched my first obsession fandom thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say yours is probably actually much more mature than mine was, which was Sailor Moon.
Oh, yes, that was.
She still likes it
for a lot of people.
Sorry,
I do still like it, and I will knife you if you say anything bad about my Usagi.
Yeah. So.
Not her. She's allowed to say stuff. You're not.
Okay, I feel the love. All right, Doc, keep going. Save us from yourself this time.
Yeah, so I started working on some of that stuff. I was very, very heartbroken with how the series ended, and stories began emerging from that, which quickly took on a life of their own, and the characters became unrecognizable, and that's how I have my universe that I have today.
Wait, if you like Sliders, does that mean you liked Quantum Leap?
I haven't really watched much Quantum Leap. I've seen a couple episodes of it, so I don't dislike the show. It just isn't one that I ever really got into and watched regularly.
But Quantum Leap doesn't really have a continuous story between episodes, really.
Yeah, like I've always been drawn to stories that have some level of continuity between them and just the continuous big arc. And aside from him trying to get home, that was kind of it.
Yeah, there's no real group dynamics.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's him and Iggy, so.
Yes, no real group dynamics.
Iggy had a big enough personality he could count as a group. We're going with it. Although I do have questions about the show, like when he morphed into the bodies of the other gender, how that exactly worked.
It worked like Munchkin. He lost a round. And if you've played Munchkin, you'll understand what I mean.
I don't understand what you mean, but we're going to move on. All right, Doc, ask your question.
So, real life often influences our work, but were there any specific moments that formed you as a storyteller?
Ooh, this is going to be really super cheesy, but I have to say that having
it's okay.
various romantic relationships over the years and becoming close with my partners, and then especially once I met my husband, just really learning what that kind of intimate relationship can be, and having that best friend thing. I think that has ultimately made my the romantic relationships that I have in my books much better and deeper. It was kind of, guesstimating at that when I was a young teenager, and then as I've matured and experienced that real love thing, it's it's been a big impact.
I will say, having read your books, one of the things I like is you show mature relationships, as in like, okay, we've split, but we still work together. So how do we find that? And it's not, okay, yeah, no, this was totally, it's like, no, bad habit. She's not my girlfriend anymore. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that, because it is a struggle and it is real. And so many people kind of learn through reading some things that we don't always how we interact. It's a great way to set good examples.
Yeah. And I'm still really good friends with my first boyfriend. It was long distance for most of the time that we were together. So I think we were always more friends than a couple in a lot of ways. But so you can be friends with your ex. It is a possible thing.
It can happen as long as they're not annoying. No, no, I'm kidding.
Well, it depends on how they put whether they put pineapples on their pizza, because some things are unforgivable.
And this is why we're not married, JR.
Yeah. No comment.
I put pineapple on my pizza.
Nobody's perfect, Doc. Nobody's perfect.
I am not. So, today we've talked about your stories and things you've written, but we're here to talk about your movie. But can you give us what the big names of your book series are, really quick, so that they know not just a screenplay author now.
Yeah.
You're not going to abandon us with the Catechol universe.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely still working in that. And I love the narrative form. That I don't think that's ever going to change. Just adding something, not taking away. So like I said, my main works are in the Catechol universe. So there's the original series, which is just Catechol. Fractured Empire is the name of the box set if you're getting the full box set, but it's the Catechol series. The sequel series to that is Terran Empire Saga, and I have several co-authored spin-off series, Shadowed Space and Verity Chronicles, and then In Darkness Dwells is a standalone. And I also have the Mindspace Quartet within the Catechol universe. That's solo work. And then I also have the Dark Stars trilogy, which is a standalone space fantasy on more of a YA bent.
So we're here today, though, to talk about your film stuff. So before we talk about the specific film product, let's talk about you as a film nerd. So, Doc, what got you into films as a medium for storytelling? Like,
did you really expect me to read that entire paragraph of a question to get to the geek stuff?
I mean, Doc, come on. You're supposed to be a scientist. How do you do that without reading?
Skimming.
Oh, so I should put Cliff Notes next time. Got it.
Yeah, you have the summary sentence at the beginning, and that tells you what the rest of the paragraph's going to be about.
See, we now know JR doesn't use outlines when he writes.
Actually, I do, but my outline could be a short story or a novelette, but we won't go there. So,
all right. So I think the question was, how did I get into screenwriting?
Films as as a viewer, like what is it? Because some people are they're mad on movies. Some people are like diehard film aficionados, and some people even become professors of film.
Well, I love the visual medium. I mean, I've been watching movies for as long as I can remember, and I think that it's a super interesting and engaging art form, and I wanted to learn more about screenwriting. So when I went to college, I took a couple of screenwriting classes, and that was my first exposure to the writing side of it. But just as a film nerd, I've had a lifelong appreciation of it. I went to an arts magnet school, and we had to take a class in each of the different art forms, and moving image arts was one of them, which is basically film. So I also had a little bit of exposure at that point from a young age, and thought it was great.
All I remember about magnets is like opposites attract and the like repel. Or maybe
not that kind of magnet, JR. No. Nice try, but no.
Why are you doing that, Doc? Are you okay?
Science to the people who, I don't know, can do math.
I do math. 1 + 1 is 2. Sometimes 1 + 1 equals more.
What does 2 + 2 equal?
Depends on what generation you're asking that question, because nowadays the answers get a little wonky. Are we talking pre or post Common Core?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I don't do that Common Core stuff.
Also depends on which dystopian future you're a part of.
I was the parent during the pandemic who emailed the teacher and said, I have no idea. I taught him the right way of doing it. That's the way people do it.
I had a college class I took with a guy that was going back to school under the Marine Enlisted Commissioning Program, and the professor had one of those snooty voices. We talk about when you go up and go into the real world, the teachers always use, you'll use this math. And he raised his, she gave all the examples of doing your bills and budgets. He goes, ma'am, I've been living on my own for 15 years and never once have I bothered to do it this way. This is asinine. And then he got up and left, and I'm like, can I follow him? Will I lose my scholarship?
Or you'll never walk around with a calculator in your pocket. Well, actually.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, no. However, Marvel now gave math teachers ammo. If you've seen No Way Home, Spider-Man solves a problem that Doctor Strange gives him just by using simple geometry. I hate geometry.
We've established that I don't do any of the maths, so we will get back on track and talk about films. I can watch films. Doc, we're on 12.
So why is it that you love films specifically? Or in writing them, actually? Because I think those are two different things.
So to answer the first question of why I enjoy them, I think it's just that it really brings together all of the different art forms in one thing. Where you have the writing aspect of it, you have just the beautiful visuals and lots of different aspects to those visuals, but just that you can tell so much with a single image is great. And then you string those images together as moving pictures, and it just opens up all sorts of things. And from a writing perspective, I like that you just get to really focus on the story and the dialogue and the character aspects of it, and not need to worry about doing all of the setting descriptions, which I very much enjoy in writing, but it's kind of fun to just be able to focus on that bigger arc aspect of it, and have just the witty dialogue, or just figure out how to do that. But it is very different. It took a bit to switch over into that other mindset and start thinking about, well, how can we show this versus being able to just delve into a character's head and do some internal monologue to explain something.
All right. So this is the part where we're going to start putting our own commercials in. So we will take a moment where we shamelessly shill for the man, and we are going to pause for that commercial interlude.
20 years have passed since the Ixa almost wiped humanity from the face of the galaxy. Now they have returned with a prophecy of doom, and the prophecy is already coming true. Start the series readers are calling an action-packed military thrill ride. Download Super Carrier today. Book 1 in the Ixan Prophecies trilogy. Available from Amazon and Audible.
All right, we appreciate you sticking with us through that commercial break, which I inserted in post, and we even waited 2 whole seconds before we jump back in, people. This is the movie business that we're here to talk to Amy about, and we're going to pretend like we know what the hell we're doing, and we're gonna rock on with those questions. So we talked about what you like about watching movies. We talked about what you liked about writing movies. So now you can answer it from either perspective. But when you watch content you didn't create, what is it that draws you into a movie? Is it the concept the story is trying to tell? Is it the actors? Is it the overall adventure of it? What is it about a movie that makes it sing for you?
It definitely has to have an interesting concept for me to even want to watch it in the first place. But I think it's really the characters that will ultimately pull me into something and make me want to keep watching. But I do love a good mystery. So if there's anything in there that just putting out those little clues and then trying to figure out the answer to it, that keeps me engaged. So I end up watching a lot of the crime drama stuff a lot. Outside of sci-fi, that's probably the thing that I watch the most. And
I really love
those just have so much of that, like, hey, we're presenting this, this person died, but what happened? And then you go over the 8 episodes of discovering all of the twisty backstory things that led up to that. So I enjoy those sorts of things.
All right. I'm the guy that cheats when I watch a mystery, and I'll like either Google it as I'm watching to know how it ends, or I will read the last chapter in the book because I'm too damn impatient. So I'm not a good candidate for that content.
Wow, I don't even know what to say.
You say nothing. You just kind of ignore him.
Okay.
This is why you haven't been answering my texts. Damn it. All right. So
Wait, you texted me?
How you going with that line? Okay. New phone. Who this? So
unfortunately, most of my communication is via Facebook. New Facebook. Who's this? No, it doesn't work quite right.
So how did your love of film as a viewer, which you've talked about a little bit, transition into you saying, you know what, I want to make a movie?
Well, I wrote my first screenplay via the college courses that I had mentioned, and then it just went on my digital shelf, and I didn't think about it for a decade. But when I moved out to the California countryside on the ranch where I now live, the person who I live with here is a filmmaker and has a trailer full of equipment to make professional movies. And we got to chatting and we're like, hey, we should totally make a movie. And it came about via a conversation about crypto mining. My friend James and my husband Nick were putting together a mining rig and started talking about like, hey, well, what if all of this crypto mining was actually some sort of like big crowdsourced thing to process a bunch of data, like doing the like folding at home or the SETI at home program. And like, oh yeah, that's a cool idea. And I'm like, hey, we can totally make that into a movie. So we started writing, and James and I delved into it. And I had just enough experience with screenwriting that I felt like I could do it. So I probably did maybe like 70 to 80% of the script, and then James did a lot of cleanup with the formatting and editing, and wrote some of the scenes in it. So it was a good collaborative project, and we'd worked together on the adaptation of my Catacomb series. He was one of the screenwriters on that project, so I'd reviewed it a lot.
So it sounds like you have the common problem of so many ideas in so little time.
Yeah, I mean that was certainly part of it, but this was a like, hey, really, we should just sit down and write a movie that we can film ourselves on the ranch and the surrounding areas, and then wrote the script around what resources we had access to. It's like we used the neighbor's house as the main house, and the library up in Oakhurst, which is one of the nearby cities, and then just a lot of the locations here on the ranch, and just wrote the script around all of that stuff. And so it was an interesting box to place ourselves in. So it's sort of a bottle film, but not quite, because we do technically venture out beyond just one single location. But it was confined, and just coming up with a story that would work with those locations was a cool challenge.
So it sounds like go ahead.
Really stretched yourself super hard with this one. Like I wouldn't even know where to start. So I'm impressed.
Well, the good news about so few locations means not only would it work on film, it would work on stage, because there's less sets, I would think.
Oh, Crypto the Stage musical out. So we had this ongoing joke during the filming of like all of these different cuts that we could make of it. So like we showed up to the library and we were filming in mid-December, so they had all of these Christmas decorations up. So we're like, oh, it could be Crypto the Christmas movie. And then we started thinking all of these other crypto things that we could do a recut of the movie to make it so now we can have Crypto the musical stage adaptation.
You know you fall down the rabbit hole when you go the route of sitcoms and you have the Disneyland episode that's really just filler.
Yep.
So, well, before we talk about this movie, which we've hinted at, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, how are things going with the Catacomb movie that we had you talk about a year ago, I think?
Yeah, so we have still been in chats with various networks, very preliminary conversations, and there's interest in it. We have not yet found a home for it, but I'm still optimistic that we will.
Okay, so back to the movie that you were just hinting at. Speaking of, let's talk about it. So, what is it called? I know that was a weird segue. It didn't quite work, but when all else fails, we blame Doc.
No, I thought we were blaming Nick today because as punishment.
Oh, he's
for
not here. That's
that.
right. It's perfect. This is why you're the Queen Bossy Pants of the show.
Right,
So what's this movie called?
The movie is called Crypto, as in cryptocurrency, not cryptozoology.
That would be cool too.
Yeah, there are already those cryptos out there. So as far as I know, this is one of the first crypto mining themed movies out there. There might be others that I'm just unaware of, but they certainly haven't been widely spread yet. So that's cool that we get to be on the leading edge of that.
All right, so I'm going to show some of the concept art.
Yeah.
For the show.
So that is actually a shot of the lead actress, Michaela Iverson, on there, and I did the poster art there.
So she gave us the version that has all of the movie poster type stuff on there, but it was a little bit distracting from the image, and since you probably couldn't read it on your screen anyway, we went with this. But how did you go about picking the actress that you picked?
She was a known actress to James Fox, the director of the film. She's attached to another project that he's also working on, and they chat regularly, and he told her the idea of it, and she said, yes, I'm in, without knowing anything else about it. So she's been the presumptive actress pretty much since the beginning of that, but she was absolutely amazing to work with and did such a good job carrying this movie. She's the only character that is on screen throughout the entire movie. So she had such a big project to do with this, but she did an amazing job.
So if you go to the show notes, dear listener, we will have links to which will be live by the time you watch this. We have links to the trailer for this. If I was better with technology, I would have figured out how to download it so I could upload it for you to watch, but I'm just not that smart. So instead, I'm going to
figure out how to turn it on.
Yeah, they make fun of me when I call tech support. It's just, it's sad. But anyway, when you watch the trailer and you see the actress's face, you'll notice she has one of those faces where you're like, I have to have seen her in something, because she just has that face that looks like you know her, even if you've never seen her before, which I thought was kind of neat.
Yeah, she's really a wonderful person, and I'm so happy that we had her to work with on this.
Well, it sounds like you were really hands-on in all the process of it all.
Production. Yeah, so I was one of the screenwriters on it. I was the script supervisor on set. I ended up also handling a lot of the prop stuff and on set continuity things, which I was not expecting to do. There was a last minute staffing change that happened, and I jumped into that. So if there are errors, I'm going to feel really horrible, but I'm very hard on myself with those things. And then also executive producer on it. So there were a lot of things, but like my husband built it. He's voicing one of the characters in it and is working on the editing. And it's like, it's this it has an indie feel to it, but a very professional quality. So it's been a super fun project in that respect, because I really love the team projects with the indie writing that I've done. And so this was just that same kind of feel, but switching over to the film side. And I love the challenge of having the multiple hats to wear and just figure out how to get it done with a small team and just everyone really rising to the occasion. It's a cool feeling.
So in addition to all of this craziness, we're going to ask you to give us the 30-second elevator speech. 30 seconds to describe your movie. Go! All
right. So Kara is a burned out game developer who's moved out to her grandfather's old country ranch cabin and is reinventing herself as a crypto miner. And she's working on this new algorithm and discovers that there's a secret code embedded in the blockchain data, and goes down the rabbit hole and quickly finds herself in a cat and mouse game for her life as the people behind it want to keep their secrets. And she got in the way.
Uh-oh.
And if you look at the bottom of the screen, if you're watching us on the YouTubes, we list the cryptotechmovie.com as our website, so you can check it out. Again, that will be in the show notes as well. Sorry to interrupt, Doc. I just figured I'd let people know.
So we've covered some of what makes your movie special, that you're really the first crypto mining movie, let alone a crypto thriller movie.
Mhm.
So, but what other than thriller, where do you think this fits in the subgenre space? Like, would you call it cyberpunk? Sounds a little cyberpunk.
I don't know that I'd say quite cyberpunk, but it definitely has some sci-fi elements to it. I don't want to give too much away because there are some twists in there,
It
but
sounds very near future sci-fi.
yeah.
So
So I think thriller and near future sci-fi are probably the best. There's also some say like psychological and mental health themes in it. So it could get into the psychological thriller subgenre as well.
okay.
Okay.
She's not quite sure if what she's experiencing is just in her head or if there's really something going on.
Well, when you spend too much time alone with just the machines, that can happen too.
Oh, she's also recovering from some bad experiences with her former job and kind of had a breakdown that she's trying to get over.
We won't make the joke and ask if she worked for Blizzard. We won't do that. I didn't do it, Doc. I just didn't do it. Too
JR, sometimes, man. Why do we let you out of your cage? I'm gonna get us in trouble more than you. So it's definitely a really neat way of doing this. Have you JR, you have
You're
questions?
supposed to ask the tropalicious question next and not get discombobulated because I throw wrenches in your plans.
I will
You're
stab
supposed
you
to be the voice of reason.
with this. See? Wait, what?
You
We're
didn't read the
screwed.
fine print?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if either of you are super reasonable, if I'm being honest here. Oh boy.
And
That's
she's
why
come
we're
here
fun.
multiple times, so go
I
figure.
mean, I do have a bit of a foundation for that statement. It's not just being thrown out there with no.
So
This is true, but this is why we're fun. The dysfunction. You can't have dysfunction.
Oh no, that's
without
why I
fun.
keep coming back. It's always a good time.
she's not even like on seconds; she's on thirds of us.
No, fourth, actually.
Fourth, yeah.
Because
So
she did the panel.
you're
Does
right.
it count? And we did two of them, re-aired them. So technically that's like 6 because it counts twice.
No. We're talking about her willingly inflicting herself on us. The fact that we choose to show it over and over again is just proof that she's an entertaining, great guest.
This could be our new tagline. We put the fun in dysfunction.
I like
There
it.
we go.
That's actually
We've
pretty
got
good.
JR, the Army might sue you for the copyright. I think they have that one.
Let's back to her movie.
But so what tropes do you think you really had a lot of fun with it? This is the tropalicious time. So and do you think some of these tropes are more movie-based tropes or book tropes? Like, is there a difference?
We sort of approach the tropes as twisting some of them on their head a bit. One of the tropes that's been popular recently is the like granddaughter grandfather relationship. So we definitely incorporated that in there. But with one that we intentionally really turned on our head is having a female lead in that game developer / crypto mining thing, which tends to be a more male dominated line of work. So we definitely wanted to have a female lead in there and turn that one around a bit. And then I guess from the mental health side, we had there's that, like, going to a therapist and having that be the window into some of the backstory that we.
That's actually a neat trick. I like that.
What?
No, if you lay up too much backstory, it's hard to fit that in without feeling like an info dump, even in movies. Doing it through a therapist office is a unique way that feels like you're building the story because you're showing trauma, you're showing character development, but you're also getting in that backstory. I like it. That's creative. Was that your idea or James Fox's?
I honestly can't remember who brought in that. He brought in more of the let's have her have some sort of mental health thing that she's recovering from. I think that he brought that, but I can't recall the like having the alert pop up on her phone of like, oh, therapy session's about to start. And who exactly did that?
I think that's really awesome though that it shows that you guys are kind of yin and yanging very well with each other. So, and
he's so good with the little subtle character stuff. It's just a pleasure to work with. And I love the little things that he comes up with.
Okay. So you said that that wasn't quite a film in a bottle kind of approach with one set. How many actors were involved in this? Was it just her and the rest was sort of voice in the background, or were there multiple characters?
Yes, so it's just her, but there are other characters that appear as just like kind of background shadowy characters, or as there's a good amount of like phone call voiceover character work as well.
Did you get voice authors to do it? Voice actor.
We have a combination of people who are working on it. Some people we do have some professionals that we hired on for certain roles, and then we have just other people that volunteered and said, I want to participate, and we know that they have good voices, and hey, yeah, you have good enough audio setup, so let's go for it. So
that's awesome.
Just directed from afar and did that, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So you'll probably recognize some of the voices in there because we have some authors in the community that have lended their voice.
That's awesome, bro.
Did you voice over anything, Amy?
No, I did not.
Amy's like, I was doing enough.
Yeah, I was doing it.
Sure,
honestly, there's one role that I would do, but I already have too many different credits on this doing different things, and it starts to look bad if you have too many things that you're
the one thing I want you to do, Amy, in your next movie then is you've got to do like the female equivalent of the movie trailer voice guy in a world. Like you could do it. You could totally pull it off.
I don't know.
Be like the yin to his yang or something.
I'll have to think about that.
So
you could do it, Amy. I believe in you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can you give us a hint about which authors we might hear the voices of?
I think that's probably fair to share at this point. So we have Josh Hayes and James Aaron.
Awesome.
We even talked about Josh Hayes earlier.
You did.
So that's so exciting.
He's a fun. Does that mean he gets his IMDb whatever page?
Yeah.
There you go. Talk about Amy not just is a multiple threat, she's going to help you become a multiple threat. Except for you, JR. You're just not a threat.
Yeah. I'm friendly. I'm like officer friendly. Wait, I don't think that means what I think it means. We're just going to move on.
Role two. A friend.
So,
a friend.
Right. So when you made this movie, you obviously don't want to give any spoilers. Is there room for a sequel?
Yeah, for sure. We ended it in a way that there certainly could be either future films or even spin off into a TV series if there's interest in that. The sequel would require much more budget than we had into this one. So it'd be a different type of project, but the story can certainly support going for quite a ways beyond this.
So if you expanded the story, would it necessarily mean more settings, or would you still be able to keep it localized?
We would probably want to have a lot more settings in it to do it justice. What we did for this one is super cool, and I really love how it's come together, but I don't think for a longer running franchise, it would be as engaging to just keep it limited like that.
So any plans on turning this into a book series?
I have thought about doing a novelization of it. That's certainly a possibility. I have yet to talk with James about what that might look like, but I suspect that he would be amenable to that kind of adaptation.
What about any sort of like comic type setting? I could see this working in a black and white. I've watched the trailer in all fairness. I could see some of those gritty black and white style like graphic novels would work for this.
Yeah, it actually would be a really cool graphic novel. That's not a skill set that I have myself, but certainly if someone was interested in it, I'd be game, pending whatever rights we have with the distributor.
So without spoilers, obviously, is there room to do the pre-story to this about whatever her trauma was that got her on the farm in the first place?
Yeah, I think there certainly is. We keep the backstory quite vague in the movie. It's more about her present experience than the past. So the little hints in there, but yeah, there's a lot of story that could go into that, and the relationship with her parents and her friendship with llamas. Who's her gamer friend? That's his tag, not his actual name, because llamas would be a really weird name for.
I mean, I've heard some weird ones, so I mean, I was going to go with it.
I honestly thought for a brief second you were talking about llamas, like real llamas.
I mean, those could be fun too.
I suppose there could be a llama farm somewhere as well. That was not one of the filming locations that we had immediate access to, but there's always the possibility that we could.
Big at supporting their local artists, etc. So is this going to get a local viewing from you guys in the California area?
I would certainly love to have it at the local movie theater up in Oakhurst. That's a place where we frequent going to movies. So being able to have it air there at some point would be really neat. And we are hoping to do a theatrical release for this as well as ultimately on a streaming platform, I'm sure. But we're going to be talking with distributors hopefully soon, and we'll hopefully find a good home for it.
Are you going to get to keep the reel-to-reel, like the screen roll film you see in the pictures? You got to put it on just for that, so you have a copy. I know they don't use them anymore, people. I'm not that.
Yeah, I was going to say this was shot digitally, so we do not have.
You got to put it on there just for like. I figure if vinyl's having a comeback in music, like the reel-to-reel could have a comeback in movies.
I mean, it would be super cool. It just that's not what we have, I'm afraid. I don't.
Well, they get a blank and put the label on it, and nobody will know the difference.
Yeah.
Doc, you slapped your forehead at least a dozen times today. Are you okay?
Nobody lets you out in public.
All right, Doc. Do you have any more questions before we start wrapping this up?
I don't think I really do. Do you?
All right. So, Doc, then the next scripted question, if you decide to actually read it instead of just going off in left field, is yours at number 21.
Now I really feel like I have to go off into left field.
Just to be contrary, you do, I think. And then come back and circle back.
But if you could have any famous actor do like a cameo in this, or actress, who would you pick?
Oh, man.
I mean, I know who I'd pick, which is Henry Cavill, but I just...
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I don't know.
I love to own the fact that they're just nerds for fun, the fun and glory of being a nerd.
Yeah. So. Just because it has kind of that, like, hidden technology aspect to it, I'm going to have to go with Keanu Reeves. And also, he's such a nice guy that I would love an excuse to meet him.
I have watched him on gun ranges, like they filmed it, and the dude knows his way around a pistol. Yeah. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah. So I think he'd actually be a good fit for.
I think he would honestly really enjoy certain aspects of the movie, because it definitely sounds like, particularly with the her wondering if she's real or not, what she's really going through, if it's all real or not. Mm-hmm. Have you seen Matrix Revolutions yet? Mm-hmm. Which I truly enjoyed.
Yeah, I liked it too. I was on the I really liked this camp. It's very divided. I've been interested seeing who likes it and who doesn't, but I was on the I liked it side.
It has been a very unique, I would say in some ways it's as talked about and stirring the pot as much as the original. Mm-hmm. Which is saying quite something, because you do, but so you have some of that same aspect that does. So I think he would, I would not be surprised if he watches this and is like, I love this movie, because we should totally.
That would make me so happy.
I can't wait to see this movie because it's a little outside my normal genre, but I love your writing style, and I'm really excited about this.
So, I mean, we have enough people in the special secret squirrel community that listen. I'm just saying, Panel Van, Keanu Reeves, make him watch it. Amy will love you forever. And then once you free him, like if he doesn't associate the movie with his trauma, maybe he'll want a fun movie too. And of course, I'm weird. What can we say? We intentionally worded that question because I thought about asking if you could get anybody that starred in it that you wanted. And I started thinking, well, it's already filmed, so that would insult her actress who's in the movie, who clearly from the trailer did an amazeballs job. So I was like, okay, what about a cameo? Then nobody gets offended. See,
But
I'm thoughtful.
you know what?
Like
One of the things I love is when, particularly for genre like sci-fi, borderline sci-fi stuff, and even fantasy stuff, but really for sci-fi is when you get an actress who hasn't been huge yet, or an actor, because it really gives them a lot of room to play. Like, I like established actors just fine, but I think that there's a lot where it gives them room to play, and they're not bringing all this baggage of how it should be done to the screen. They're bringing their new, fresh look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and we really did customize this role for her. So I really can't imagine anyone else in it because it was tailor-made for her. So,
and that's amazing. You don't get many of those as an actor or an actress. So,
yeah, it was just a lot of fun all around, and I'm really happy with the team that we have working on it, and it's been super cool, and I can't wait to share it with everyone.
Yay, you won't have to wait much longer, hopefully.
And yeah, we've got the schedule to air like shortly after your announcement, because we had to make sure we fit around that because we didn't want to spill the beans early. So I'm excited to see this. So what do you think realistically is the time to the average person watching this is going to be able to see it?
I think that we're planning to have a cut to distributors by the end of February. So it really depends on how quickly they package it beyond that. I'd say that summer would likely be the earliest, but I really am not sure. I guess it's entirely possible that it could have it a little earlier than that, but I would guess probably summerish timeframe. But that's a guesstimate. Please don't hold me to it.
Fair. This is all new space for
There's
all of us. So
a lot of variable for you.
There's a lot of variables here.
But the most important things are actually done, which are normally the ones when I'm like, oh, that looks so cool. You know, it's already been filmed. It's already been, everything's done. It's now like, okay, how are we delivering you the package of amazingness?
Yeah, I mean, we are still working on some post-production stuff, and we have a couple pickup shots that we need to do, but those are scheduled to happen at the end of this month. So we'll be 100% done with filming by the end of the month.
That is so
but
awesome.
the bulk of it is done. It's a few little things that we have to do.
Do we
what
say
is a pickup shot?
Yeah, what's a pickup shot?
That's something that you didn't get in the principal cinematography that you just need to go back and get later.
You're like, wait, no, we need this.
Yeah.
So
we had some weather issues that we encountered on the initial shoot, and there were just some outdoor things that had to get deferred.
Weather will do that to you.
Yeah, it was torrential downpours. We overcame a lot of adversity with this thing, but amazingly, you can't tell that there was all of the weather stuff going on with the footage that we captured. We managed to just move things inside as we just switched on the schedule to film things inside it was going to be an outdoor day. Now it's an indoor day. And the outdoor days that we did have, it was just sunny and absolutely beautiful. And you couldn't tell that the day before it had been just stormy and dark and awful. So it came out great. So now just all of the outdoor scenes have this wonderful, just glistening grass and dewdrops on the leaves of trees, and it looks gorgeous.
That's awesome.
So I said, clearly this is winding down, but was there anything about crypto movie that you wanted to tell us before we wrap this puppy up?
Just please go on our social media and follow us and check out the trailer and some of the behind the scenes footage and share it with your friends. And when it comes out, watch it and hope you enjoy it.
So we will ask to impose upon you that when the movie is out and people can view it on all the places, will you come back to the group and share links?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that way, yeah, because the Facebook, we always try to circle back with our Facebook group to get those links when things come out.
Yeah.
And because we are book nerds first and foremost, Doc and I, we're the ones who would rather read than watch the television. So we'd like to harken back to the old reminder, dear listeners, that once we had a different podcast under a different name. And we'd like to remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books. Speaking of reviews, how would they rate and review your movie? I know on with books, it's rather easy. You got Goodreads and wherever you bought the book. How do you review your movie?
Well, I believe anyone can create an account on IMDb and leave reviews on there. And I think there's a feature on just like the Google search result things that you have the little card that comes up on there, and you can indicate if you liked something or not in there. And could probably turn on a reviews feature on our page. I don't think that's active right now, but yeah, I mean, just any of the review sites, and certainly if it's streaming on a platform, those would have a reading indicator on there too.
And another way, which we would like to encourage, is start your own blog, review it there, give it awesome praise, send Amy the link. She will thank you forever.
Yes, I will.
So, how can listeners find you though?
So you can find me personally. My hub of everything is my website, amyduboff.com. You can find me at Amy DuBoff on most social media platforms. I'm mostly active on Facebook and occasionally post on Instagram. I have a Twitter, but I never do anything there. And crypto, you can go to crypto-movie.com, as we have the address up on here. And we're also crypto.thriller on Facebook and Instagram. And we would love the likes and follows on those socials to help spread the word.
All right, I will grab those and add those to the show notes, dear listener. If you want to be lazy and just click the links, just press the buttons. Doc, did we lose you? Did you fall asleep? Your drink empty? Is there an emergency with your drink?
No, there's no emergency with my drink. I was just not listening to you.
Oh.
So, JR, can you tell these kind people how they can find us?
So you can find us on the Twitters at twitter.com/SF_fantasy_show, Sierra Foxtrot _fantasy_show. It's almost like the SF stands for sci-fi. You can email the show at blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. We both answer them sometimes. We even, read them and schedule things. It's a working email. People, do your thing. We have a Facebook group where all the shenanigans happen. Facebook.com/groups/A Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, /groups/A Blasters and Blades podcast. It's a fun place where all the cool kids hang out. We have our website at anchor.fm/blasters and blades. Again, anchor.fm/blasters blades. Doc is working with some friends of the show to get us a real live website, like a proper show. But speaking of our website, while it's Anchor FM, you can donate to the show that way on a reoccurring monthly basis. It operates much like a Patreon, or you can support the show on buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it is for the podcast. I promise I will keep my co-hosts, Doc Cisca and Nick Garber, duly intoxicated. They will drink until their liver surrenders.
Never surrender. Do refill the glass.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for spending some of your precious time with us.
Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure, as always.
So, And we did cover that you are still going to be, you're not going to leave your book series alone. You're going to come
No,
back.
I'm definitely still working on the books too. I am currently writing Terran Empire book 3.
And wait, there's another project
You froze, Doc.
we were just talking about, right? You're going to be bringing back CIFCon this year.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that is right. So it will be the third time we're doing CIFCon, which is our online convention. That is the science fiction and fantasy convention.
I'm looking forward to it.
Somehow that was not the name of a thing before we started it, and I still don't understand how, but we have it, and that is officially our thing.
So, and that's June 10th through 12th.
Correct.
Yeah,
so that will be online, and you can go to sffcon.com, and that will give you all of the information. We have yet to put up any programming stuff for the upcoming thing, but you can check out what we did, and we have all of our content available on YouTube, so you can check out the 2 previous ones we've done. There are some amazing panels on there with some super top-notch people.
Yes, it's a lot of fun.
If you'd like to get involved and volunteer, like Doc has just volunteered herself, you can reach out to Amy through any of the social medias linked below. She would love volunteers to make this the newest and best con, so we can attract new and cool people and some old returning faces. All right, Doc. We couldn't ask her the pineapple question because she's already given the wrong answer, so it's just time to close the curtains.
Okay. Well, obviously, you guys have met Amy, and Amy is amazing. But on behalf of Nick and JR as well, this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week, indulging our love of torturing JR, nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom, especially if there's pineapple involved.
Again, she puts the fun